All right, hello, Riftbounders. We are back with day 4 of Vendetta preview season. As you can probably tell, I'm a little bit sick, but we'll continue on. We've had some pretty interesting reveals overnight. We've got, most of our new legends now, and we've had a few more. We've also had some overnumber reveals as well, which look pretty neat. But they are reprints of some of the older cards, so not exactly as exciting if you were hoping for some new mechanics. But anyway, first up, we have a 3 energy, 3 might unit in Chaos, Raven Bloom Perfect, Prefects, I should say. When an opponent plays a gear, you may banish me to banish it. The way this is probably going to work out is that you play this unit and it becomes uh, a removal magnet, especially if you're going into like Aurelia or a Aurora deck in particular, because they need to get rid of this first before they can play, their big gears and things like that. Um, yeah, at least it puts the power in your hands, but essentially this is just going to be a target for their removal before they play their big thing. So not necessarily a replacement for things like turn to dust or acceptable losses, which are at acceptable losses being at action speed is a lot nicer. But obviously, this comes with the upside that you can choose when the effect goes off, rather than necessarily like your opponent chooses which gear, or the turn to dust, which happens the turn after, which doesn't particularly help against Aurora, because Aurora will still get one spin off of it. So yeah, I mean, 3 energy, 3 might for something on curve. Maybe if there's a lot of gear running around, and not a lot of removal going around in those particular decks, then that might be worth it. Next, we have a new battlefield, Hayshore, the Shell of the World. Players ignore deflect while playing for spells and abilities, choosing something here. This is really big if you're playing against an Aurelia, pretty much. This is your shut-off valve for anything to do with Aurelia. Any Vexes here are also super vulnerable at this battlefield. You're probably also looking at the Nasus, the new Nasus that we've seen that has deflect for 2 power. Yeah, this might be something, especially for spell slingers that like targeted removal, killing stuff with damage and things like that. This might be a go-to battlefield going second, just so then you don't have to pay any deflect cost, don't have to deramp yourself to be able to do any of that kind of thing. Moving on, we have the signature spell for Akali, 1 energy and then 1 red or green power for Shuriken Flip. At slow speed, deal 2 to up to 1 enemy unit at a battlefield, then move a friendly unit. And that has flow for 3 energy and 1 power. It being at slow speed is very lame. Yeah. You also kind of get messed up. A lot of the Kali deck nowadays, well, now that we're looking at some of the more of the cards, it looks like you're going to get very sad about deflect costs. So you might also play Hayshore in an Akali deck, because a lot of Akali's removal so far and triggers that she wants to replicate with the when I attack triggers in particular, because you're moving them out in and out of battlefields, out of showdowns with the legend ability. A lot of them are targeted. So not having to pay to deflect would be amazing for you. So you might end up playing that in the Kali deck. Yeah, as far as the signature spell goes, the fact is that 1 for moving a friendly unit is nice. You don't have to target an enemy unit. It says up to 1, so you can say 0, so you don't have to deal with deflect. And the fact it has flow as well, make sure that you can get up to 6 of these off each game if you need to. So yeah, it's fine. I mean, slow speed really hurts it. Action speed would probably be a nice sweet spot. Just so then you can still use it as a more utility spell to be able to move in something else, as so it can act as a little bit more of a combat trick. right now, because that's slow speed, 2 is not a lot. You're probably looking at this only just to continue the Kali movement chain more than anything else. I don't think you're looking at this as much removal unless you're playing against, like, I don't know, Victor or something that's playing a lot of, or Azir, but Azir is going to have a lot of equipment already attached to the Sand Soldiers. Yeah. Next, we have the Mel Legend in Calm in Mind and Chaos, excuse me. The Mel Legend Soul's Reflection. When you empower something else, empower me, disempower me, and exhaust, give a unit at a battlefield -2 might this turn. So I think I mentioned this yesterday as well, but essentially this is really nice with those gears. If you remember the questionable tomb from from yesterday, where you disempower it on every second turn to draw a card. Essentially, Mel, that allows Mel to then empower every second turn as well. Yeah, -2 might exhaust, give a unit at the battlefield -2 might. Yeah, it's every second turn, which is kind of annoying. I mean, well, because you're exhausting as well. You have no way of awakening it unless you play the Hall of Legends or something else to really get your use out of it. I don't think it's really worth trying to get this to proc more than once. Because you're more looking at it more as a bonus effect, because when you empower something else, empower me. So you're not really, I don't think you're going to be looking at this more than just kind of a extra combo piece, I should say, to win combats. Yeah, the empower mechanic, you're already investing a lot of resources into having to empower something else potentially, unless it's something like the questionable tome. So yeah, I don't know if the effect is quite strong enough to be worth the squeeze if you want to set up some sort of loop to be able to constantly disempower your legend and pop a bunch of things, especially in these colors that don't have a lot of targeted removal, targeted damage removal, I should say. Maybe you have like Rocket Barrage, Falling Star, not Falling Stars, excuse me. The is it Falling Star? The other one, the Mind one. I'm thinking of the red one, but I know there's one in Mind as well that hits for 6, and also Singularity, which hits which deals 6 to 2. But considering all your removal is generally pretty big already, I don't know if -2 might is worth it. We'll see. Next, we have the Zed Red Fury Champion unit, Zed from the Shadows. You may discard 1 as an additional cost to play me for 4 energy, 1 Fury power for 4 might. When you play me, if you pay the additional cost, play a 0 might Shadow Clone unit token. So for a reminder for Shadow Clone unit, it has when I attack, you may banish a unit from your trash. If you do, give me Assault 4 this turn. I think we've already seen this. 4 energy, 1 power is not great. Especially if you also have to discard a card to play him. That's kind of yikes. I mean, it does act all as a kind of fuel for the Shadow Clone unit and therefore the legend ability, so maybe it's okay. But to me, on turn 2, you don't really want to be de-ramping already if you can help it. So yeah, it's okay. You get 2 effectively 8 might on board while you're attacking though, so that's kind of nice, and you can swap out Zed when you need to. Next, we have some overnumber reprints. So this is the Body Rengar from Unleashed. Rengar Trophy Hunter, 5 energy, 1 body power for a 6 might unit with ambushing him, and he can be played to a battlefield where there are enemy units. Obviously saw a lot of play in Unleashed. I don't see why he wouldn't see a lot of play in Vendetta as well. And then the other side is Kha'Zix for 5 energy, 1 body power for a 5 might unit. With Hunt, when I attack, you may spend 3 XP to deal damage equal to my might to an enemy unit here. Unfortunately, the body Kha'Zix isn't the one that gets played a lot. It's the Chaos one. But the art looks cool. You can find pieces where people have stitched the 2 cards together. These overnumbers thankfully do match up, unlike the Poro ones. I think the Poro ones slightly don't match up, but these actually do once you put them side by side, which is pretty cool. Next, we have the Shen Legend, Eye of Twilight in Calm and Order. So this got spoiled ages ago, but only because we had the dual decks and you could see it. So you have action, exhaust, give a friendly unit tank this turn. This is particularly useful in these colors because you can then protect your win cons. So let's say you have a bunch of units that are sitting on a particular battlefield with a sonar, and you're trying to hold. You can give tank to one of those other units to then ensure that your sonar can be protected, and you is less likely to die anyway in combat. So that's one thing you can do with it. Being at action speed is pretty nice, but it is sort of underwhelming because you can only do it in once per turn cycle. So you've really got to know what your win cons are and how to play around it. And this is the over number. Pretty nice. Yeah, Shen. Yeah. Next, we have a 8 energy unit in Fury for 8 might. Eclipse Dragon, so Volibear and Rengar Dragon enjoys Rejoice. Has Accelerate for 1 energy, 1 Fury power as an additional cost. And then when I move, if you control 4 or fewer runes, draw 1. So this is supposed to go into the Renekton deck. I don't know how the Renekton deck is going to get to that amount of runes if your main idea is to control 4 or fewer runes. Maybe by playing 3 seals, you can probably get there. But even then, you still need minimum 9 runes like out on board because you need to make energy somehow, right? Maybe you play the sages, the Dragon Soul Sages from Unleashed that create 1 energy, so you're trying to use energy dorks, I guess, to create your energy. Would probably be part of that Renekton deck. So yeah, maybe that's how to get there. The effect when I move, if you control 4 or fewer runes, draw 1 is a little bit because it's only on movement. I mean, movement at least guarantees the draw rather than in a showdown. You don't have to conquer or anything, so maybe it fixes that issue for Fury and Body. But yeah, the 4 or fewer runes bit is still, I'm still on the fence about that one, but could be really strong. We'll have to see. Next, we have the Nasus Mind Champion unit, 5 energy, 1 mind power for a 6 might champion unit. Nasus, Guardian of Knowledge. Once each turn, when an enemy unit here dies, channel 1 rune exhausted. So it says once each turn, but it doesn't specify that it has to be your turn or your opponent's turn. So you can essentially do this twice per turn cycle. Once on your own turn, you can remove something with like a Wages of Pain or something. And then on your opponent's turn, you can try and remove something else. Yeah, channeling runes exhausted is pretty nice. A lot of your stuff in the Nasus deck looks to be, very energy intensive. So having extra ways of being able to channel runes is pretty important to ramp up to the late game. So yeah, I think it's okay. It's not too strenuous of a condition when an enemy unit here dies. So yeah, I mean that's just doing what you want to do. Especially you can still attack into somewhere, and Nasus will proc because he's at the same battlefield as the enemy unit dying. So yeah. Next we have Gangplank, new 6 energy 6 might champion unit, I should say, in body. So he's in power for 2 body power. His empowered ability: if a spell or ability that chooses me would stun me, give me minus might, or return me to. If a spell or ability that chooses me would stun me, give me negative might, or return me to hand, give me +3 might instead. So the condition is the spell needs to stun him, or give him negative might, or return him to hand. So, and give him +3 might instead. This could actually see a lot of play in the Kha'Zix deck, only because Kha'Zix is in Chaos and Body, and Starcrossed on Gangplank becomes kind of insane value, because then you get a 9 might unit and you still remove something from their board. So yeah. Also, if you're in Mind and Body, so that would be Jace, you could stupefy this 3 times, and he goes up to 12. No, not 12, sorry, up to 15. And you draw 3 cards. That's also insane. but you'll need to invest quite a lot into him to get to that point. 6 energy, 2 power is not trivial. So we'll have to see where we go. But those are probably the two biggest places I could think of Gangplank being played, only because it gets you even more value out of your cantrips or your 3-0s that you were playing of anyway. So yeah. Next we have Ilaoi. So this is the overnumber version of her. Oh, it's not the overnumber version. It is the overnumber version. Yeah, sorry. But this will also pair with the Gangplank version that we've seen in the last one. 6 energy for a 4 might unit, which is kind of yikes. For Ilaoi, Prophet of the Great Kraken in Chaos. When you play me or when I score, play a 1 might tentacle unit token. I have +1 might for each token unit you control. So notably, she's not in Mind or Order, which makes this a lot weaker, because obviously those are more of the token unit colors. Essentially what you're getting is 6 energy for a 5 might, because when you play her, she creates a 6 might, sorry, because when you play her, you get a 1 might tentacle unit token, and then she gets her own buff for the 1 token that you've made. You've then got to make her score, so conquering or holding for more tentacle units. I think we've already seen the 1 might tentacle units, or someone might have spoiled it and it's not official yet, but I believe it's just a vanilla 1 might unit, which is a little bit annoying. I don't know. It could be all right. The energy to might payoff is a little bit better than if it was a 6 energy 6 might unit, only because you're spreading out the might amongst a couple things instead. So it means that your enemy's removal becomes a little bit less efficient. But I don't know if there's any chaos decks that particularly create a lot of tokens yet. The one that I can think of is probably Zed, because Zed creates the shadow clones, so maybe it fits in there. But I don't know if you would pay this amount for this, because then you're just making more tokens whenever you score with her, and then you're not assaulting with Zed, essentially, because the way that Riftbound kind of works most of the time is that you're setting in kind of the minimum in order to score on battlefields, and most of the time, if you need to move in multiple units to assault on somewhere, not a great place to be. So yeah, I don't know. Could be all right, but I think Zed's probably the only place where this will see some play, if at all, only because Zed does produce more tokens by himself by the time Ilaoi can come out. So yeah. Next, we have a common in Calm, 4 energy for a 3 might unit, Field Musicians. When you play me, give a unit +3 might this turn. Yeah, pretty simple. This might be pretty broken and limited, actually, because essentially you're paying 4 energy for 6 might. Again, it's only this turn, though. But for a big swing, Riftbound being all about tempo, this will definitely allow you to get over some particular board states that you otherwise couldn't. So we'll have to see how it plays out in Limited. In Constructed, I don't think there's seeing much play, really. 4 energy for a 3 might unit, and then you get a 3 might buff. Yeah, probably not great. They can react with a Starcross or their own removal before you get to it. So yeah, maybe if you have a not so fast up. Next, we have the Nasus Legend in Calm and Mind, Curator of the Sands. So the opposite colors to Renekton, obviously. And his effect is very late game. When you play a unit, gear, or activated ability with energy cost 7 or more, you may exhaust me to ready up to 2 runes. So, like we mentioned with Renekton over the past couple of days, he's very evocative of being really early game, very powerful in the early game, making sure that you're de-ramping yourself to get the most synergy out of it for a brief amount of time. Nasus is pretty much the opposite. You know, you want to get up to that 7 energy cost stuff, so then you can get even more value out of your runes. Considering we've seen the Nasus units and stuff that aren't 7 energy, which is a little bit annoying, I don't know how often it's going to come up. I do know that the Nasus Calm unit though, this would be nice because the unit itself is 8, and then the empower ability is 8 as well, which is an activated ability. So you will get some cost reduction that way in order to keep up, a counter spell or something, because it says ready up to 2 runes. So you could keep up a not so fast or a defy. So that helps it a little bit. It does help out those particular champion units, because otherwise you would have to windmill slam it into, probably getting just Starcross next turn. But now with the Nasus Legend, you can at least try and defend from that on your opponent's turn as well. There's the over number for the big dog with the signature. Looks pretty nice. And then we have the signature spell for Nasus. So 4 energy for Siphoning Strike. Deal 4 to a unit at a battlefield. If you control 7 or more units, deal 7 to it instead. When it dies this turn, excuse me, channel 1 rune exhausted. So notably, you can target your own units at a battlefield. I don't really know any particular friendly units that you would want to target this with. But if you really need the rune channeled for next turn, that's an option. 7 or more runes, deal 7 to it instead is a little bit of an unfortunate damage threshold. If only because most units that you would care about that are larger would probably be about 8. For example, like, your harness dragons are 8 might. All the other dragons as well are generally starting about 8 might when they come down. So 7 damage is a little bit unfortunate. 4 energy for 4 damage is okay. But you're playing Stupefied, which is a might, which gives stuff -1 might and draws you a card, replaces itself. And you need to make sure that things die to this spell in order to get the extra value out of it. So it's okay. I mean, it's extra removal, I guess, but you're probably also having to pay for the deflect cost and stuff. At least if you're trying to target Aurelia, if she needs to go over the top of it with might, at least the damage is still marked on it until you start a combat showdown. So that's one way of forcing out more stuff from Aurelia outside of combat, and trying to avoid it as much as possible. Next, we have the Chaos Mel unit, Mel Defiant Soul, 5 energy for a 4 might unit. With Empower, with the Empower cost being discarding a spell. When I become empowered, banish an enemy unit at a battlefield with 3 might or less. So essentially, this is a Gust on a stick, except it's not to hand, which is pretty nice. Discarding a Gust to this is actually probably your best case scenario, because the Gust is probably not very useful. You can only do this at slow speed though, so maybe you need a Gust at reaction speed, but considering you don't have to pay any energy for it, it seems pretty worth it. 5 energy for a 4 might unit with this effect is actually kind of okay, considering you don't have to invest any more energy resources into it. And I'm also going to consider that you probably have a bunch of spells that have flow or something on it, so discarding a spell is not really much of a cost if you have a flow spell in hand that you're not planning to cast anytime soon. So yeah, pretty good. Next, 2 energy for Glowstone, a gear in order. It has Empower for 2 power. It says disempower this, exhaust, choose a player, they gain control of this and recall it, send it to their base. At the end of your turn, kill this and deal 5 to all units you control. So essentially this is a massive hot potato. Yeah, 2 energy, 2 power. So you're essentially recycling 2 runes to then give this to a guy and hope they hold the grenade. It'd be really nice into a Victor or a Lux, or Victor with tokens, or LeBlanc maybe with all the tokens, but then you're giving a lot of death knells as well, which is kind of yikes. Yeah, 5 to all units. I mean, a lot of decks right now are playing a lot smaller units that are easier to move around. So this could be really good, but you are essentially putting a tax on the rest of the game, because if your opponent also doesn't want to have all their stuff die, they're going to do it right back to you. So it's going to be fairly annoying. The fact that you're paying first as well means that you're deramping faster, because you have to pay the initial 2 energy and 2 power to try and do this. Whereas they could use the 2 energy for something else and then recycle those to then throw it back at you. So yeah, I don't know how good this is. I mean, someone could prove me wrong. 2 energy is not a lot, but I don't know if I like how this plays out. Alrighty, moving on, we have a common 4 energy, 1 order power for a 3 might unit. Reluctant Leader. When you play another unit, give me +2 might this turn. So this goes wild in Victor Recruit decks. This goes wild in Azir Sand Soldier decks, because you're playing so many units. You can pump this to absurd levels and then, swing it in somewhere. This is like the Hui Hui and Diana. This is the Hui in token decks. You can go absolute buck wild with this thing. So I would expect to see this slot straight into those, as some way of going tall as well as wide in those decks. But we'll see if it's good enough, because it might not be worth the investment of the 4 energy, one order power if you can get an equivalent or more tokens for the same amount of resource investment. Moving on, 5 energy for a 5 might Fury unit, Shadow Assassin. I enter ready if you have a card with my name in your trash. So essentially, it checks your trash and says if you've had another Shadow Assassin already die in this game, or you've had to discard it, then enter ready. Yeah, it's okay. 5 energy for 5 might unit. Sometimes you get upside of it entering ready. Yeah, that's fine. I think maybe in Akali it's okay. But in limited it's fine. Constructed, I'm not quite sure who would want only this. Because it's essentially just a 5 might vanilla that you can't accelerate all the time. You don't have that choice. It's dependent on the game state. So yeah, don't know exactly how often that'll come up. Hopefully a lot, because then it would be actually worth it. Next, 5 energy for a 5 might Calm unit, Esteemed Hierophant. While you control 7 or more runes, prevent all damage that enemy spells and abilities would deal to me. So notably, this doesn't stop your opponent actually targeting this unit with stuff. So they can still target it. They can't deal the damage though, which is nice. So things like unchecked power, things like singularity, that kind of thing, will do nothing to this. This does not protect you against a Starcross though. So, or negative might effects. So, I mean, there's a little bit of protection there. 5 energy for a 5 might unit is okay. Maybe if there's some calm deck that's looking for basically a vanilla 5 might unit, might be good enough. Clearly, with the way that the ability is phrased, excuse me, this is probably supposed to go in Nasus, because you are aiming to be having more than 7 or more runes most of the time anyway. So yeah, might be okay. Next, we have an over number for Vi that we've seen before. So 2 energy, 1 fury power for 3. With ganking, recycle 1 from your trash. Give me +1 this turn from Vendetta. From Origins, I should say. Sorry. And then 3 energy, 1 fury power for a 4 might Jinx that we've seen in Origins, with Accelerated Assault 2 when you play me discard 2. So these are just some nice treatments that also match up, which is pretty cool. Next, we have alt art for Jace. So we've seen the blue Mind Jace already, but just as a reminder, 4 energy for a 4 might champion unit Jace, Mound of Progress in Mind Domain. When you play me, you may kill a friendly gear. If you do, you may play a gear with energy cost no more than 7 energy from hand this turn, ignoring its energy cost. So pretty powerful. Notably, 7 means that you still can't play Aurora, because Aurora is more than that. But I mean, getting other gear out, it's pretty nice. And then we have Victor as well, from Origins, 4 energy, 1 mind power for a 3 might unit. Victor Innovator. When you play a card on an opponent's turn, play a 1 might recruit unit token to your base. Yeah, it's pretty okay. This we're looking at more of the arcane style of Victor and Jace, and they look pretty nice. And that brings us to the end of our previews for day 4. Hopefully you're still keeping up. Like I mentioned, or I haven't mentioned it before, but I've been putting the card gallery into the description so you can have a look yourself with some of the more higher res stuff. I'm just taking these images as they get spoiled. So they're not always the best resolution. But yeah, I'll be back tomorrow with day 5. Have a good one.